But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I witnessed at the Galactic Military Academy on the third moon of Centaurus Prime. The day a human cadet named Emma Torres made General Krath eat his words along with several of his teeth. The Galactic Military Academy was not just any training facility. No. This place was the pinnacle of military excellence, where the strongest, the smartest, and the most ruthless warriors from across 73 star systems came to prove their worth. Look, I have seen a lot of stupid things in my 300 cycles of life. I have watched Krellian warriors challenge plasma storms. I have seen Vixorian diplomats try to negotiate with black holes. On any given day you could see Krellians, those 8-foot-tall mountains of muscle and rage, sparring in the combat pits. The Vaxorians with their 4 arms and telepathic abilities dominated the strategy courses. The architecture alone could make you weep with inadequacy. Towers of crystallized titanium reached toward the purple sky, and training grounds stretched for kilometers in every direction, each one designed to break bodies and forge legends. Threndians, covered in natural armor plating that could stop a plasma rifle, lumbered through obstacle courses that would liquefy lesser beings. And then there were the Zephrons, who could literally breathe in the vacuum of space and thought oxygen was for weaklings. He had been the Academy's head combat instructor for 40 cycles, and in that time he had never, not once, been bested in single combat. Each species had their own hierarchy, their own legends, their own champions, but at the very top of this food chain sat General Krath. Oh, you want to talk about intimidating? Krath was a Chronovian, a species that evolution had clearly designed while extremely angry. 9 feet tall, covered in biometallic scales that could deflect energy weapons, with 4 eyes that could track 17 different targets simultaneously, and strength that could crumple starship hulls like paper. The Academy ran on a simple principle: strength equals respect. If you could not fight, you did not matter. And species that could not produce warriors? Well, they were barely worth acknowledging at all. This was the environment. This was the culture. This was the way things had always been. His reputation was not just impressive, it was terrifying. Cadets whispered his name like a curse. He had personally trained 6 galactic champions, crushed 2 rebellions with his bare hands, and once killed a Threndian warbeast by simply staring at it until its heart stopped. Probably not true, but nobody was brave enough to fact-check that story, until the humans showed up and ruined everything. I remember the day Emma Torres walked into the main training hall for the first time. The room went quiet, not out of respect, but out of sheer confusion. She stood maybe 5 feet and 7 inches tall, in a room full of beings that averaged 8 to 10 feet. She looked like someone's pet had wandered in by mistake. When the Galactic Council announced that humans would be admitted to the Academy, the reaction was, shall we say, less than enthusiastic. Actually, that is putting it mildly. The reaction was somewhere between hysterical laughter and outright disbelief. Those tiny, squishy, fragile little things from that unremarkable blue planet, the species that needed atmospheric suits just to survive on most civilized worlds, the ones who died if they did not consume water every few days. Come on. The Krellians laughed first. Deep, booming sounds that shook the floor panels. Then the Vaxorians joined in with their chittering, multi-toned mockery. Even the normally stoic Threndians allowed themselves amused rumbles. This was the great human threat we had heard whispers about, this soft, small, breakable creature. She had dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, brown eyes that seemed too calm for someone about to be devoured by this environment, and a physique that, by galactic standards, looked like it belonged in a medical ward, not a military installation. Compared to the other species present, humans were a joke. No natural armor, no enhanced strength, no telepathic abilities, no redundant organ systems. Their bones could break, their skin could tear. They needed sleep. For the love of the void, actual unconscious downtime where they were completely vulnerable. What kind of evolutionary disaster produced a species that voluntarily shut down for 8 hours every cycle? The taunts started immediately. Hey human, did you get lost on your way to the nursery? Careful, do not sneeze too hard, you might break something. How many of you does it take to equal one real soldier? The jokes went on and on, each one more creative and cruel than the last. But here is the thing that should have tipped us off. Emma did not react. Not even a little bit. She did not flinch, did not argue, did not show any emotion whatsoever. She simply walked to her assigned quarters, unpacked her belongings, and showed up to every training session exactly on time. When others mocked her, she smiled. When they pushed her in the corridors, she steadied herself and kept walking. When they questioned whether she even deserved to be there, she just looked at them with those calm, calculating eyes and said absolutely nothing. That quiet confidence. That should have been our first warning, but we were too busy laughing to notice the danger. The incident happened 3 weeks into the training cycle. We were all in Arena 7, the largest combat facility in the academy, watching General Krath demonstrate proper close-quarters combat techniques. And by demonstrate, I mean watching him absolutely demolish a training drone that had been programmed to fight at champion level. The drone lasted maybe 15 seconds before Krath ripped its power core out and crushed it into powder. The assembled cadets cheered, roared, and generally made appropriate sounds of awe and terror. This was normal. This was expected. Krath was, after all, the undisputed master of combat in the known galaxy. He tore through its defenses like they were made of smoke, his massive fists creating sonic booms with each strike, his movements impossibly fast for something his size. Then his 4 eyes locked onto Emma, who was standing at the back of the group taking notes on a datapad. Actually taking notes. Like this was some kind of academic lecture and not a demonstration of overwhelming physical superiority. Emma looked up, completely unbothered. Taking notes, sir. Analyzing your technique. You. Krath's voice could strip paint off walls. Human? What are you doing? Krath's scales rippled with what I recognized as amusement. The dangerous kind. Analyzing. You think your tiny human brain can comprehend combat at this level? The arena went dead silent. You could have heard a molecule vibrate. Nobody spoke to Krath like that. Certainly nobody questioned his methods or suggested they needed to be analyzed. I think everyone can learn something from observation, sir. Her voice was steady, professional, almost bored. The other cadets exploded into laughter and excited chatter. This was going to be entertaining. This was going to be a massacre. Someone started taking bets immediately. The odds on Emma lasting more than 5 seconds were at about 3,000 to 1. I personally bet she would not make it past 3. Oh, that did it. Krath's amusement transformed into something darker. He gestured to the combat circle in the center of the arena. Then perhaps you would like to demonstrate what you have learned. Come. Show us what a human considers combat. Emma calmly set down her datapad, removed her academy jacket, and walked toward the combat circle. She wore a simple gray training outfit underneath. Nothing special, nothing reinforced. Just standard issue cloth that would probably tear if you looked at it wrong. Let us make this interesting, Krath announced, his voice booming across the arena. If you can last 30 seconds against me, human, I will personally apologize to your entire species, but when you fail, and you will fail, you will admit that humans have no place among warriors and request immediate transfer to some administrative position where you cannot embarrass yourself further. Emma stepped into the circle. She looked at Krath, then at the hundreds of cadets surrounding them, then back at Krath. How about we modify those terms, General? Krath's laugh could have registered on seismic equipment. Ayo? The little human wants to negotiate? This should be amusing. What do you propose? If I win, you resign your position. The arena gasped. Emma's expression did not change at all. Effective immediately. The laughter that followed Emma's proposal was so loud, so sustained, that I genuinely thought the arena's structural supports might fail. Krath himself laughed so hard his biometallic scales began shifting colors. A physiological response. Chronovians only exhibited when experiencing extreme emotion. Resign? This human child thought she could make him resign? Let me explain something about Chronovians, specifically about General Krath. His species evolved on a world where the gravity was 4 times what most species considered standard. Their planet had predators that made nightmares look friendly. He had fought in 3 separate wars, single-handedly turned the tide in 2 major battles, and once held a defensive position against 500 enemy soldiers for 6 hours until reinforcements arrived. Every single Chronovian was born into an environment that actively tried to kill them every single day. They did not have a word for mercy in their language. They had 17 different words for various types of crushing victory. Krath himself had been fighting since he could walk. His combat record was flawless. 247 official duels, 247 victories. 31 of those opponents had died, not because Krath was cruel, but because they simply could not survive the level of force required to defeat them. This was not arrogance on his part. This was simple fact. Krath was, By every measurable standard, one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And humans? Krath had studied their physiology as he studied all species that entered his academy. They were weak. Objectively, measurably, scientifically weak. Their bone density was laughable. Their muscle strength was pathetic. They had reaction times that were adequate at best. They came from a planet with comfortable gravity, abundant resources, and relatively few natural predators. They were a species that had gotten lucky, developed technology before they needed to develop strength, and now thought they could play with real warriors. Accepted, Krath said, still chuckling. When you lose, human, and you will lose, I want you to remember this moment. Remember when your pride exceeded your capability. In Krath's mind, this was not even going to be a fight. This was going to be a lesson. A brutal, necessary lesson about knowing your place in the galactic hierarchy. The crowd had grown substantially. Word had spread through the academy faster than light-speed communications. Cadets from every species poured into Arena 7. This was too good to miss. A human, challenging Krath. This would be talked about for generations. This would become legend. The day the delusional human got put in her place, the betting pools had gone absolutely insane. Some cadets were wagering entire semester stipends. The Vaxorians had created 17 different categories of bets. How long would she last? How many bones would break? Would she even manage to throw a single punch? Would Krath kill her accidentally? I noticed something though, something that bothered me even then. While everyone else was laughing, joking, making their bets, Emma was stretching, not frantically, not nervously, methodically, calmly, like this was just another training exercise. Her breathing was controlled, steady, rhythmic. Her eyes never left Krath, but there was no fear in them. No doubt, no hesitation, just cold, calculating focus. Krath stepped into the center of the combat circle, his massive form casting a shadow that swallowed Emma whole. Any last words, human? Emma rolled her shoulders once, twice. Yeah. Try not to hit the ground too hard, General. The medical staff is pretty busy today. The arena exploded in laughter again. Oh, this human had jokes. How adorable. How pathetic. The combat circle activated. Energy barriers shimmering to life around the perimeter. Standard safety protocol, designed to protect spectators from stray attacks. The barrier could withstand plasma cannon fire. It had never, not once, been breached during a training exercise. How very, very stupid. An automated voice announced the start. Combat initiated. No weapons, no killing blows. First to incapacitation or submission wins. Begin. Emma did not move. She stood in the center of the circle, completely still, watching Krath circle her like a moon orbiting a planet. Her stance was loose, relaxed, almost casual. Her hands were not even raised in a proper guard position. She looked like someone waiting for a transport shuttle, not someone about to fight the most dangerous being in the academy. Krath did not rush. Why would he? He had all the time in the world. He began circling Emma slowly, his four eyes tracking her every micro-movement, analyzing her stance, her balance, her rearving. He was a professional after all, even against an opponent this laughably outmatched. He would do this properly. You are not even going to attempt a defense. Krath's voice dripped with contempt. I expected at least some survival instinct. Emma said nothing. She just kept watching, her eyes tracking Krath's movements with unnerving precision. Interesting. Krath feinted again, this time to the right. Even faster again. Emma's eyes tracked perfectly, but she remained motionless. Either she was frozen with fear, or she was waiting for something. Krath assumed it was Krath decided to test her. He feinted left, a movement so fast it blurred, designed to provoke a reaction, to make her flinch, to expose her complete lack of combat training. Emma's eyes followed the movement, but her body did not react. She did not fall for the feint, did not panic, did not move at all. His fist, the size of Emma's entire head, shot forward at a speed that should have been impossible for something his size. The air itself screamed as his punch displaced it. He was wrong. Krath launched his first real attack. Not full force, obviously. He did not want to kill her immediately. Just enough to knock her down, break a few bones, end this embarrassing display quickly. Krath threw another punch, faster this time, aimed at her torso. Emma twisted. Minimal movement, maximum efficiency. The punch missed again. Then another punch. Another miss. Krath increased his speed, throwing combinations now left-right, uppercut, each one capable of pulverizing concrete. Emma slipped between them like water, her movements so economical they barely looked like movements at all. Emma moved. Finally she moved, but not backward, not away from the punch like any sane being would. She moved forward and to the side, a tiny shift of position, maybe 6 inches total. Krath's fist passed so close to her head that it should have taken her ear off, but it did not. It missed, completely. The crowd gasped. That was luck. Had to be luck. The crowd had gone quiet. This was not right. This was not possible. Humans were slow. Everyone knew that. Their reaction times were documented, measured, quantified. There was no way she should be avoiding Krath's attacks. No way at all. Stand still, Krath roared, frustration creeping into his voice. This was not how this was supposed to go. She was supposed to be broken by now, bleeding, begging for mercy. But she was. Krath saw it too. For the first time in 40 cycles I saw confusion flash across his face. Then concern. Then, just for a fraction of a second, something that looked almost like fear. And then something changed in Emma's expression. The calm detachment vanished, replaced by something else. Something predatory. Something ancient. Something that made my scales itch with primal recognition. She smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not an amused smile. A smile that said, I have been playing with you, and now playtime is over. Every combat instructor in the galaxy would have been catastrophically wrong. Emma stopped moving defensively. She planted her feet, her stance shifting into something I did not recognize. Something that looked wrong, unbalanced, amateurish. Every combat instructor in the galaxy would have called her form terrible. Emma exploded forward, not walked, not charged. Exploded. One moment she was standing still, the next she was inside Krath's guard, moving with a speed that made his earlier attacks look sluggish. Her first strike hit him in the solar plexus, or what passed for it in Chronovian anatomy. It should not have done anything. Krath staggered backward. Actually staggered. His scales cracked where she had hit him, hairline fractures spreading across his torso like a spider web. How was that even possible? Emma did not give him time to process. She flowed into her next movement, a strike to his lower right knee joint. Chronovians had reinforced leg structures that could support 30 times their body weight. Emma's kick bent it sideways with a sound like a starship hull buckling. Krath dropped to one knee, bellowing in pain and confusion. His biometallic scales were designed to stop plasma fire. A tiny human fist should have been less effective than a gentle breeze. Krath swung wildly, desperation replacing technique. His massive arm should have cut Emma in half. She ducked under it, stepped inside his range again, and drove her elbow into his rib cage. Another crack. Another fracture. Then her knee found his midsection. Then her fist crashed into his jaw with a sound like a plasma grenade detonating. The crowd was losing their minds. Half of them were screaming. The other half stood in stunned silence, their brains refusing to accept what their eyes were showing them. This was not possible. This violated every law of physics, every principle of combat, every understanding we had of biology and force dynamics. Emma weighed maybe 130 pounds. Krath weighed over 800. The force differential should have been insurmountable. They did it through endurance, through adaptability, through pattern recognition, through the ability to push their bodies past every reasonable limit and into territory that should have killed them. But here is what we did not understand about humans, what we could not have known because we never bothered to look deeper than surface statistics. Humans were not strong because of their muscles. They were strong because of their planet. Earth, that unremarkable blue world, was a nightmare factory. It had produced the most efficient predators in the known galaxy, and humans sat at the top of that food chain not through strength or speed or natural weapons. Emma's muscles were not just contracting. They were utilizing something called adrenaline, a chemical humans produced that temporarily overrode their body's safety limiters. Her bones were not just bone, they were dense, reinforced through constant stress and calcium deposits that formed under pressure. Her nervous system was not just sending signals, it was firing at rates that approached Vexorian telepathic speed. And most terrifying of all, she had been trained. Actually trained. By a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other with their bare hands before they ever reached for technology. 10, Emma said calmly, her voice barely strained. She drove her fist into Krath's shoulder joint. The armor cracked. 9. Another strike, this one to his neck, carefully placed to avoid killing him, but ensuring maximum pain and disorientation. A knee to his ribs, precision targeting the already fractured areas. 7. Krath tried to stand. Emma swept his remaining good leg. He crashed to the ground, the impact shaking the entire arena. She was on him instantly, moving to a dominant position that every combat instructor in the academy would have recognized as strategically perfect. Krath tried to throw her off. Could not. His strength, his legendary, unbeatable strength, could not dislodge this tiny human from her position. 6. Another strike. 5. And another. 4. 3. Emma's fist hovered above Krath's skull. His 4 eyes stared up at her, wide with an emotion I had never seen in them before. Pure, undiluted terror. 2. The crowd was screaming now, a cacophony of disbelief and horror. Cadets were climbing over each other trying to get a better view. The betting pools had collapsed into chaos. I yield. Krath's voice was raw, desperate. I yield, human. Her fist came down. Not with full force, she was not trying to kill him, but with enough force to make her point. Krath's skull, that supposedly indestructible cranium that had survived direct artillery hits, cracked. Not shattered, not destroyed, but visibly, undeniably cracked. Emma did not stop the countdown. 1. Emma stood up, stepped back, and calmly walked out of the combat circle. Krath lay there, the undefeated champion, the legendary warrior, the most dangerous being in the academy, bleeding from a dozen fractures, his pride shattered more thoroughly than his bones. The automated voice announced, combat concluded. Winner by submission and incapacitation, Cadet Emma Torres, human. The silence that followed was absolute. Nobody moved, nobody breathed, nobody could process what had just happened. Emma picked up her datapad, put her jacket back on, and looked at the assembled crowd. Anyone else want to analyze human combat techniques? No one answered. No one dared.